There are actually two organizations producing the dozens of events surrounding the 100th anniversary of the destruction of the Greenwood neighborhood: the Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission and an organization called Justice for Greenwood, the driving force behind the Black Wall Street Legacy Festival. It became clear that while they agreed on many principles, they disagreed on others. And as Jason Doyle reports, both groups are very clear about what those differences are.
It starts with the people of Greenwood.
The leader of the Justice for Greenwood Foundation is attorney DeMario Simmons. He's filed a lawsuit against the city of Tulsa and others to get reparations for the descendants and survivors of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre.
And we're fighting for 4 points, and they're very simple.
Point 1 is financial compensation for those who suffered in the massacre.
And my team and I have been fighting on behalf of the survivors and the descendants and our North Tulsa community.
The second point is for those who perpetrated the massacre to be held accountable.
And some people say, well, no one is alive who perpetrated the massacre, but the city is alive. The county is alive. The chamber is alive. TDA is alive. The state of Oklahoma is alive. And we want them held accountable.
The third point is to meet and document every living descendant throughout the Greenwood diaspora.
We want to know you. We want to understand your story, and we want to make sure you take back your narrative, which has been stolen from you.
Point 4, ensuring the discussions about the Greenwood massacre start with the people.
We pledge to make sure that anytime there's a discussion about Greenwood, the massacre, that it starts first, not with the buildings, not with the plaques, not with the trees, not with the museums. It starts with the people of Greenwood.
That's where the Justice for Greenwood Foundation and the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission have come into conflict. Reportedly, demands were made for $1 million to be paid to each of the 3 living survivors and a $50 million fund set up for descendants from the commission. Around $30 million was raised for the commission events and the Greenwood Rising History Center.
This was something that began in 2018 when we actually revealed to the community, to our donors, to anyone, whether it was $1 million donor or whether someone who had $30. These are the projects that we are asking people to join in on.
Phil Armstrong is the project manager for the Centennial Commission.
We believe wholeheartedly in reparations, monetary reparations and communal reparations.
He says the commission's projects can help create the needed conversation about reparations.
It will bring the world's attention to this, and the next obvious discussion then goes to why haven't these monetary reparations ever been addressed in a formative way by those who were called into being liable in this.
Civil rights attorney Benjamin Crum, who represents the George Floyd family, said during a symposium held by the Black Wall Street Legacy Festival on Saturday that the conversation about reparations and justice is an uncomfortable one.
It's going to be an uncomfortable conversation because you are oppressing me. And if I don't speak truth to power when we have a chance, how will our people ever advance?
During that same symposium, Simmons said reparations in Tulsa for Greenwood survivors and descendants will lead to bigger things.
Tulsa is the test case. Tulsa is the microcosm of our largest struggle. If we cannot win Tulsa, if we cannot get a victory here when we have living survivors, then how can we get a victory on a national level?
Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee is leading the effort for Congress to consider reparations for the American black community.
America. The Constitution says we ordered to create a more perfect union. I was not even included. But tell me why you run away from us when we say that the way to heal America is the reparations for the Tulsa descendants of this massacre.
She said Tulsa's Greenwood district is a shining example of what a successful black community could be in America.
Here's my message to America. Slaves emancipated in 1863 and 1865, less than 100 years. You gave them a broken reconstruction. You started lynching them. 84% of them were black, but yet you kept talking about raise yourself up by your bootstraps. Look, Tulsa was here.
Jackson Lee asserts that the spirit and people of Greenwood are not dead.
People could have ran and never came back, but they are here. They're in the legislature. They're doctors and lawyers. They're teachers. They're children trying to graduate from high school right here in Tulsa. They're Greenwood folk. Why be afraid of them? Give them the reparations of dignity and let your city be an international city. And give it to them now.
The Tulsa City Council on Wednesday unanimously approved a non-binding resolution apologizing for its role in the 1921 race massacre. It also commits to making tangible amends for the racially motivated acts of violence. Civil rights activist Jesse Jackson gave his support to the council.
I regret when you have issues between people, we must figure out how to reconcile, even if it hurts.
Over the next 6 months, the mayor and city council will establish a community-led process to evaluate recommendations for reconciliation made in the 1921 Tulsa Race Riot Commission report. That report states government entities owe survivors and descendants reparations. The Centennial Commission's project manager says the Greenwood Rising History Center will shine a light on the need for action.
Our ability to say, let's do something that raises the awareness of this history. And when people come in from all over the world and they see this and they see what was done in this community, but more so see the vibrancy of Black Americans in Oklahoma at the turn of the century, and they start asking, has anybody done anything? Why haven't they done anything? And we can say, they have. They paid for a 200-page paper that they have not ever followed up on.
Armstrong is ready to come together to find a way forward to obtain the reparations for survivors and descendants.
I will sit down at the table and say we have been for reparations from the very beginning, and I believe Greenwood Rising History Center's work will help in leading those discussions of raising this money, because private donors and citizens should not take on the responsibility of those who are liable from this.
However, the Justice for Greenwood Foundation is not waiting.
I'm excited to announce that a little bitty grassroots community north side organization called Justice for Greenwood will be granting a gift of $100,000 for each survivor.
Simmons says his foundation raised funds to give to the living Greenwood survivors, but it doesn't fix what's owed.
This is not reparations. This is just a gift. But we make a pledge that we will continue to raise money. We will continue to find resources so we can do the work of our foundation.
Which will likely lead to a courtroom battle between his foundation and the city of Tulsa over who is responsible to make the people of Greenwood whole again. Jason Doyle, the Oklahoma News Report.